Morning,
Mohit
sir.
Gupta.
Morning, sirs.
Please take a seat, Mohit. Could you give us a brief introduction, Mohit?
Yes, sir. So, my name is Mohit Gupta and I come from Ajmer district of Rajasthan, from where I have done my primary schooling. Thereafter, for my higher secondary education, I moved to Kota. After that, I have done my BTech in electrical engineering from IIT Kanpur. During my undergrad, I have done a data science internship, post which I received a full-time offer. But after my graduation, I have decided to pursue civil services preparation, and this was my first attempt at the exam.
Right. Can you tell me the motivation for joining the civil service? You have a professional degree. In fact, the government has spent a good amount of money equipping you with that degree.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think there would be 2 to 3 reasons for that. First would be like from starting from my childhood, there was a public service orientation because of my mother and my grandfather. So that was the thing. Secondly, I believe that in a technical domain or even in the software domain in which I've done my internship, so I think the challenges would be limited because though the financial trajectory is very good, but the scale and scope at which the bureaucracy operates is unparalleled. So I think these diversity and challenges are the main driving factors. And thirdly would be a more personal reason, because I genuinely think that next 25 years are going to be very transformative for India, and I think bureaucracy will be at the heart of it. So I want to be an active contributor to it.
Right. Now, data mining, you must have heard of this.
Yes, sir.
What are the 3 types of data mining? Can you explain to a layman, because I am not at all a technical person?
Sir, I'm not aware of the categories of data mining, but as a process, it means that you extract data from large data sets. That like you have huge chunks of data sets and you want to extract the most valuable data points out of it. That refers to the data mining process.
I was looking for a more technical response. Clustering is one.
Clustering, yes.
Then what else? Classification is another. Association is the third.
Sir, I will read more on it.
Now, climate change. What do you understand by climate change?
So climate change refers to the macro and micro processes of wherein there are changes in the observed patterns of climate, like average temperatures are rising. That is a part of climate change. Or there may be increased incidences of extreme weather events. All of these are contributors to climate change. And as an overall result, the net climate pattern of any geographical area is undergoing change.
But there are critics like Donald Trump. They argue that this is a hoax because in the past millennia there have been at least 8 instances in which climate change has occurred in terms of ice age, then warm age, then ice age again, and so on. How would you refute this concept?
Sir, that's true that Earth as an ecosystem undergoes regular periods of climate change. But the thing is that that happens over a very large period of time, even thousands and millions of years. But this time, post-industrial revolution, what we are seeing is that that greenhouse gas emissions have risen rapidly, and that has contributed to the climate change process being accelerated. For example, we are already breaching 1.2 degrees Celsius limit as compared to pre-industrial level, the average temperature of the Earth. So the rapid pace of climate change is an issue because the Earth ecosystem would not be able to cope with it and make life unsustainable.
So you are saying that what is exactly the trigger for this phase of climate change?
So that would be the increased pace of release of greenhouse gas. That would be the main trigger.
Anthropogenic factor.
Anthropogenic factor, sir, definitely.
Now, if I was to put before you this point of view that the civil services have failed the nation, how would you respond? Take your time. You can think over it for about half a minute.
So can I start? So, sir, I think civil services has not failed a nation because we need to see the scale at which the civil services operate, and especially the size of our bureaucracy. If we compare it to China, where the state is all encompassing, in comparison to that, we have a much smaller bureaucracy, but a much larger problems to handle. We have seen that we have come a long way, even in terms of, let's say, in terms of human development indicators, which we can see in terms of infant mortality, maternal mortality. We have come long way in terms of literacy. We have come long way in terms of infrastructure. Though there have been some lacunae, for example, one can argue that land reforms have not been that successful. red tapeism and corruption has been a persistent problem, but it's on the decline. So I would not say that it has failed the nation. Since the scope of the problems was large, it might give a perception that the developments had not taken place at a considerate pace, but definitely like it has laid the basis in the initial decades. It has laid the basis, and now we are seeing those rapid changes taking place around us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we go the same direction. They just did. Okay.
Mohit,
Yes.
firstly, congrats for doing well in your first attempt. And I'd like to start with your extracurriculars.
Yes, sir.
You are fond of playing chess.
Yes, sir.
Any recent match you can recall in the last 2-3 days?
Sir, there is this monumental match of Pragnananda where he surpassed Vishwanathan Anand to become the highest rated Indian player.
What is his present rating?
So that would be around 27, in 2739. I think it's around 27. Live rating is around 2739 of Pragnananda.
And of Anand?
Now he surpassed him by 2 or 3 elo points as far as I can remember, sir.
Okay. Please check on it.
Okay, sure, sure, sir. I will.
Is Magnus Carlsen all-time best?
So that can be contested because different chess era had different style of playing, but at my personal level, I think I would say that he is an all-time best.
Okay, one more. What is the present format of candidates tournament?
Sir, it's a round-robin tournament wherein 8 players will take part, and each player will play every player twice. So that's the format of it. And those who will be the person who will be scoring the highest would qualify for the World Championship.
And what is so special for the Indians?
3 Indians are this time in the fray, and hopefully we might find a challenger from the Indians.
Okay. Coming to your home state,
Yes.
Rajasthan, no? One new tiger reserve has been added. Where is it?
Sir, I have read about it. It's the latest tiger reserve, but I could not recall the area's name. I have read that it has been approved by NTCA, but
Okay. There's a lot of talk about Green Expressway being built from Delhi to Bombay, Mumbai, passing through your state.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell which districts is it touching?
Sir, those would be the southeastern. I have to read on it. I can think that it would be parallel to DMIC, Delhi Mumbai Industrial Corridor. So I would have to think. I would have to read on it. What are the?
And what do you interpret by Green Expressway? What are the features?
So green expressways would be built in such a way that they are that they have done a proper environment impact assessment. EIAs would be on point, and apart from that, I think they would be built in a decarbonized way. I think the construction would happen in a decarbonized way. That can be one thing, but I would have to read more on this subject.
Okay, one last question from me would be regarding, supposing you have made DC in Ajmer, right? 3 initiatives which you would like to introduce.
So firstly, I would like to develop the tourism sector of Ajmer, because I believe that religious and cultural tourism of Ajmer we could really tap into that potential, because it's the site of almost all major religions like Islam, Hinduism, Jainism. That would be the first thing. Secondly, during my preparation, I have observed in NFHS data that there is a glaring gap between female literacy as well as male literacy. One is at 82% and second is around 55%. I would really like to assess the same and work on the same. Thirdly, I would like to work on the service sector potential. Ajmer has recently come up with a demarcated areas, service hubs, but we have seen that there is not so much interest from the industries. The developments have not taken place at a rapid pace. So I would like to delve into these three priority areas, sir.
Mohit,
Yes, sir.
you are an electrical engineer and you have opted for sociology as one of optionals. So tell me something about the sociology of electricity distribution in India.
Sir, I think first would be the disparities in access to electricity. Though with Saubhagya Yojana and Atal Har Ghar Bijli Yojana, we have been able to achieve 100% electrification, but still there are remote regions in India. So the first would be the disparity. Second, I think, would be the populism associated with
So remoteness is associated with access, lack of access.
Sir, I think it's a major factor because the grids are difficult to reach, and also sometimes it becomes financially unsustainable for the discoms. So I think access, because we have seen that rural part has usually lagged behind their urban counterparts. That could be seen from a sociological dimension. Secondly, I would say the distribution within a city. When we see that slum areas are usually deprived of regular electricity and 24/7 access, we can see that class and caste factors are at operation over here. So that would be another point. Third would be the populism associated with the discom nowadays, because to gain some electoral or political gains, we are seeing that there is an increasing fiscal burden on the discom. So I think these could be the sociological dimensions of it.
Okay. So you mean to say that because poor lack access to electricity, okay, that's a very prominent trend in your view.
Sir, it's on decline with these Saubhag. It has been a trend.
Prominent feature.
Yes, sir.
Prominent
According to me, yes.
of the Indian electricity distribution system. So in that view of the matter, the idea that all the poor people should be given free electricity, is that okay?
Sir, I think we are targeting the wrong issue over here. The targeting issue was of access and infrastructure rollout. While when we talk of free electricity, it's like it's financially unstable. It's not like people are not willing to pay if they have access to electricity, but they want 24/7 assured supply of electricity. If we would rather increase our capital expenditure towards infrastructure creation, like streamlining our grid system, integrating our grid system, and ensuring that there are no power cuts, that would be a more pragmatic way to go about it rather than giving free electricity.
Okay, so you mean to say that poor are able to pay?
Sir, if already we are having a subsidized tariff system in our country, and we can further make classifications in it for domestic electricity, but I think the issue is largely of access rather than the price associated with it.
Now tell me, from the perspective of the poor, okay, what is the greatest electricity reform which has taken place in last few years? I wouldn't say decades, last few years.
Sir, I would say two things have taken place. First would be these schemes which have rolled out for 100% electrification. That would be Saubhagya, and we have seen.
That's an old scheme.
Yes, and second would be
in the last 2-3 years.
second would be the decentralized production of energy that we are now focusing on, like rooftop solars. We are focusing on, and we are also
That
focusing.
also is a very old scheme.
Sir, but the scale is now, I think we are now operating at scale, and even with the schemes like PM Kusum, we are trying to convert the farms into.
PM Kusum is a failure, complete failure. It has not kicked off in any of the states.
Sir, I would read on the analysis.
Okay. So, have you heard of bi-directional distribution of electricity? So the consumers become producers.
Yes, sir. That would be the decentralized mode of production of energy. For example, rooftop solar can be one way, and secondly, industries also have captive power plants, so they can also supply excess electricity which is generated. And I think the idea under the PM Kusum was also same, that there could be bi-directional access to
So,
electricity.
what is the policy reform which has taken place in that direction to enable this bi-directional exchange of electricity?
Sir, I am not aware of the policy reforms, but if I was to implement the same, I think I would enable I would transform our grid system for the same, because currently it's mostly from discoms to the consumers. The flow of electricity is through that. Yes. So I think the grid systems would need to be reformed, but that's
Okay, so please read about that.
Yes, sir.
Government of India in last 3 years has taken very, very important reforms globally.
You made a comment that corruption is on the decline. On what data do you base that assumption?
Sir, with increasing digitization, e-office implementation, I think, and e-governance initiatives taking place, since there is a greater transparency, and even in the tender allocation for most of the sectors, we have moved towards online bidding and GEM portal. Though there are certain reports.
You are assuming that e-governance automatically leads to reduction in corruption. Is that so?
Sir, the principle behind e-governance should be, because the corruption is inversely proportional to transparency. So I think through digital measures, there would be a greater trend.
But on the global corruption index, we are not in a very happy position.
Yes, sir, that's true. Sir, I think, for example, can I take an example? For example, with the GEM portal, what we tried to do was we tried to introduce an open bidding system. But then there was a certain bypass which was created, like certain specifications would only be quoted by certain contractors, and that would be on a pre-arranged basis. These were reported irregularities. But I think we are moving in that direction. It's a long project, but it will take its effect.
All right. Now, another word that you mentioned was slum.
Yes.
Now, sociologically, how do you compare a slum and a ghetto?
So I'm not aware of the exact difference.
What's a ghetto?
Sir, ghetto usually comprises of dilapidated housing facilities, usually belong, and the one common feature is it belongs to one racial community. So, for example, ghettoization of a certain community when we talk about.
Always racial.
So that could be on the linguistic basis also, that could be on the religious basis also. But like there is a certain marginalized section which occupies it. That is a common feature of ghetto.
All right. How do you distinguish between a subsidy and an incentive?
So subsidy would be in the form of, on first level we could see it in terms of transfers. For example, the fertilizer subsidies are transferred in cash, but like incentives could be PLI scheme could be taken as an incentive, because we are offering the help on the net output created or the net production capacity increase, the net output capacity increase. So I think the mode and the incidence of transfer could be a distinct.
What's the intent behind a subsidy and the intent behind an incentive?
Sir, intent behind subsidy is to reduce the cost, primarily to reduce the cost to the end consumer and to enable that the products are delivered to the end consumer. For example, we talk of electricity subsidy, food subsidy and fertilizer subsidy. While incentives are usually taken to initiate certain process or to ensure that the development in certain sector is taking at a good pace. So incentives for industries, incentives for semiconductor would be an example.
Sometimes it is very sarcastically said that the poor get subsidies, the rich get incentives.
I think that has been the case with India. Like we have a huge subsidy burden which we can see, but and incentives. I think this statement here would refer to tax incentives also that are referred to that are given sometimes to corporate. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mohit, you have mentioned about watching informative content or Indian social issues.
yes.
What's the difference between non-informative content and informative content? What's the criteria?
Sir, by informative content, I meant that in the form of, let's say, investigative journalism, or in the form of a lecture, in the form of lectures delivered on it. Non-informative content, I think, in my opinion, would be the dramatization of the concepts, the cinematic concept of it, or maybe fictional concept of it. So by informative content, I meant how the real life stories are documented and how they are conveyed to the people.
What do you think fiction plays any kind of role in human development, or is it just waste of time?
Sir, I think fiction creates aspirations, sir. Fictions create goals for the future. And it also sometimes exaggerates the existing aspects of the reality. For example, by fictionalizing the concept of caste, we can actually dramatize how atrocities, we can actually scale up the level of atrocities just to point out the exploitation in it. So I think first would be the aspirational role, and second, the dramatizing aspect of it could generate greater emphasis on certain aspects of socio-political reality or socio-cultural reality.
Okay, you mentioned about media,
Yes.
journalism and all.
Yes.
Is media reporting fairly these days?
So there have been allegations that media.
You tell me. Don't tell me about the allegations. Do you think media is reporting fairly or not?
Sir, I think there are multiplicity of the media houses, and it's true that some media houses may have certain bias, but I think since we have freedom of speech, there is proliferation of media houses, and there is no dearth of both pro opinions and anti opinions available. It's for the user how he wants to consume and which content he intends to consume.
What about social media?
So social media, I think, has both positive and negative aspects. On the one hand, it has amplified the voices of the marginalized section. For example, we see online Dalit Panther movement, Me Too movement, which has taken place. So it has given a platform for marginalized section to speak. But at the same time, there is this concept of hyper reality and manufactured narratives which go around on social media. I think every transformative or disruptive technology itself offers the potential. It's up to how we intend to use it.
You are a student of sociology.
Yes.
Which sociologist published the theory on media bias?
So I know of hyper reality, but that was by
Hyperreality is related with media bias.
I think it was Jean Baudrillard. No, I would have to look on it. Sir.
Richardson.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think on affirmative action?
Sir, I think in a society like India, affirmative action is inevitable because still we see that there are socio-culturally marginalized classes. We still see, but I think certain reforms can be introduced in it. For example, only a generation using it, or maybe certain income caps could be more refined with the help of more data. So I think there are reforms required for it, but I think as of now, since these hard stratification systems still exist in India, it's an inevitable reality.
The caste census.
Yes.
It is getting a lot of opposition
Yes.
from Rajasthan, especially. There has been protests and all against
Yes.
this caste census.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think caste census is a debatable issue. If it is used only for the data purposes and if it is used for policy measures, that would.
How it can be misused?
Sir, it can be misused because it can be politicized. Certain, let's say, if I am the establishment and if I am the political party who has the government at state level, I can simply use that data to socially engineer my elections or to or use it for representative politics. So I think that can be access to data and privacy would be the two major concerns associated with the caste census.
Okay. Lastly, tell me about subculture and counterculture with very recent examples.
Sir, I would have to read on counterculture. For subcultures, I think they emanate from, they are the different strands of a culture. Like for example, if we talk in terms of religion, a sect would be considered as a subculture, but I would have to read what are countercultures.
Mohit, what's the difference between ethics and morality?
Sir, ethics, I think ethics are the standards of how should we behave. I think they are the standards of right and wrong, and in a sense they are more universal and transcendental, while morality usually emanates from the society and the community we are living in. So I think that would be the primary difference between ethics and morality.
Thank you, Mohit.
Thanks.
So Mohit, we come to the end of our formal interaction. When we'll go to a detailed feedback, but prior to that, when is your interview? A few questions. When is your interview?
It's not in phase 1, so dates are not out yet.
Okay. How many mocks have you taken?
So this was my third mock.
Okay. And what is your self-assessment?
Sir, I think I would need to work on my pace of speaking. Sometimes I tend to get a bit fast. Second thing is, I think I would need to read on power sector reforms and would revise my sociological concepts. I think that has taken I would need to revise them again.
Okay, a minor correction. You don't say read on this, you say read about this. Let me start off by saying that you are an excellent candidate. You need to give up this very stiff posture. You've been sitting like this with your hands jammed on your thighs. Have you been told to do this?
No, sir. Matlab, I think it's a natural reaction of being a bit tense in a formal environment, but I would work on it.
Oh, you have to, the more relaxed you are, the more positive vibes you give out,
Yes.
and the better the interview goes. So sit like this.
So this.
Yes.
Okay. Sir.
And with your spine aligned to the back, you're leaning forward, spine aligned to the back of the chair.
So actually, this I sat like this, but I was told by someone that the end of your spine should touch the chair and the top should not touch. So I was trying to get into that posture.
Look, you see, the more mocks you go to, this is the downside of mocks. You will get contradictory advice, and in the end, you'll be in a muddle. So my advice to you also is that it's a call which you have to take, but mocks suffer from the law of diminishing returns. So, as it is, you are in a very good space in the sense that in the very first attempt, so that's a very laudable, very creditable achievement, right? You need also to go there with your hair combed neatly. You should,
Yes.
you know, so that we feel that an officer has come into the room.
Yes, I would trim the hair. That is it.
And you have a good physique, you have a pleasant character, pleasant personality.
Yes.
So all that works in your favor. You have to leverage your strengths.
Okay.
Let me start off by saying that many candidates, many aspirants make the mistake of thinking that this is a knowledge test, a question answer session. And if you are given 10 questions and you answer 9 correctly, you will get 90%. That's not how it works. It's essentially a test of your personality, and it is designed to assess whether you have officer-like qualities. And what are those officer-like qualities? First off the list is integrity. So don't guess, because guessing is not conducive to a good personality trait. Then in the mix, you know, there are things like balanced opinions, logical thinking, lucid exposition,
Yes.
conceptual clarity, all these come. Then self-confidence and poise.
Yes.
And awareness is very important. Awareness of yourself, your district, state, country, the world. Now, questions are going to come from three main areas, or really 3 or 4 main areas. One is DAF, one is current events, one is your subject, and one is job if you have done it before. So on these, you should be very well prepared.
Yes.
Take about 100 or 120 of these A4 size sheets.
Yes.
Think of the possible questions which can come, and then on each topic do a deep dive.
Yes.
Get the topic should be covered end to end, and after that just get it down to 4 or 5 bullet points in terms of priority. Topmost would be the most important, and so on. And then sit in front of a mirror or videograph yourself and practice. That will yield more returns than going to 20 mocks.
Yes.
Maybe, you know, once you get your date, you could have 1 or 2 more mocks closer to the interview. So, especially, you know, things like, I have noted it here, that data mining, for instance,
Yes, sir.
these are all which flow out of your DAF, chess.
Yes.
So you need to be more precise in your answers. Once you've got this bullet point business in order, then you'll be very precise in your answer.
Yes.
Tiger Reserve.
Yes, sir. I have read on it, but like
Read about it.
read about it, but like at the last moment it just slipped out of my mind. That's the 5th and latest Tiger Reserve, but I would revise it. I think the problem is that I have prepared the notes, but I haven't revised it. So
You haven't practiced.
I haven't practiced it. That's correct. Yes, sir.
So you should get to work, and I'm quite sure that with your skill set, we'll see you in the list of successful candidates.
I'll try my best.
Best of luck.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
All the best.
Good candidate.
you.